Oh, it's so dramatic, that thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's so funny. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Her Badass Story. Meet the authors. Very, very excited. I need to get a little organized here because I want to start sharing. So if for those of you that are watching, we're going to ask that you share anything that you're watching tonight. Just go ahead and share to your Facebook page as well. And the authors are going to do the same because this is really a great event because you get a chance to meet the authors in this book that's coming up. And you would have thought that I would have had a picture, so I'm gonna have to mess around with that. I think that I should have had I should have had like a virtual background. I mean, I love my background, but I should have had the picture of the book. And yeah, this was really, you could tell I don't do a lot of these things. So go ahead and share to your social media pages. I'm going to take a moment to share to mine because it is, there we go. And so, all right. So welcome everyone to Meet the Authors. Again, my name is Dr. Lori Monaco. I am also known as the Badass Buddha, and I'm going to bring our authors on here. And so let me tell you a little about this book. So Her Badass Story is a compilation book, and it consists of a total of 9 authors, 8 of which you will meet tonight. One of them was unable to come because she is sick, unfortunately. But the one that is not here tonight is the gladiator guru, Margarita de Margarita. So those of you that know the show Viva Café con Leche and are watching on our, one of our tribe members, then y'all know her anyway. So you'll all be good to go. So thank you for coming on tonight. We're really happy that you're here. So this book, Her Badass Story, this is a phenomenal book because it is about stories. They always say that the best way to, move your business forward is to share your story, or the best way to make an impact on someone is to share your story. And, sharing your story is easier said than done. And I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to hold on a second because I'm looking at the branding, and I'm actually going to remove, let me see. I don't want any branding. Do we have to have any branding? We don't have to have any branding, right? Because it's like knocking Karen back there over. So I don't think, do we have to have any branding? I don't know. Okay. That's so bizarre. All right, I'll do this one there. All right. So unfortunately, she's going to be a little green in the face for a little bit. So I apologize for that. I don't know how to shut it off. That's the weirdest thing. You would think that they wouldn't even, they give you that option. But anyway, so it is about stories, stories of trauma to triumph to transformation. And why is this so significant? It's significant because we all have had them. Some have had some really, really major stories, and other people have had some minor stories. And some people, luckily, by the grace of God, walked through their life with minimal issues. And you are a very beautiful spirit. Somebody definitely really likes you, and there's a purpose for that as well. But for the vast majority of individuals, that's not the case. A lot of things have happened in their lives, whether it was in their childhood or in their teens or in their adulthood, that really created a massive impact upon them. And sometimes it was a positive impact where it was something that was serious or bad, but then it turned into something that was brilliant. Okay. But other times it sidelined people. It made them just become a part of the trauma that they suffered. And as a result, they moved their whole life based on that. Or they lived their whole life based on that. So all their choices going forward were based on the traumas that happened to them in the past. And so I became quite intrigued with people's stories over the years. I mean, I taught for almost 20 years post-secondary. So I was working with individuals that are 18 and up. And I would get to know my students. It wasn't like I just came in and taught stuff. I got to know my students. And so as a result, they would confide in me. They would start feeling very comfortable with me. A lot of times I had them for more than one course. So they would really feel very comfortable to speak. And luckily the nature of where I was teaching honored that. They were really open to that type of sharing and caring. So I was just always blown away by some of the the stories that I was hearing from some of these individuals, how they overcame things and how I could still see it was affecting them. And then over the years, I just collected those in my head, and I also had my own story. But, either we think our story is really, really major, or we think our story is nothing. And that's our version of our story, because sometimes what we think is major, really overall, when you look at the big picture, isn't a major thing. And then sometimes when we think it isn't a major thing, it is a major thing. Either way, your story is your story. So how much you think it is, what it means to you, is specific to you. So as I started to compare my story, because that's what we do sometimes too, is we compare our stories. As I compared my story to all the other individuals that I was coming, that I was meeting up with and talking to, I started to realize that, wow, my story is not that bad. And I had such a really bad time with it. And I was so depressed and I was blah, blah, blah. But I would compare, which really was dishonoring to me anyway, because again, it isn't a contest. And at the time, my story was very real, and it was very bad for me. And it could have been far worse. The story could have ended years ago, and I wouldn't be here right now. So when we do that, though, we have to honor ourselves for our story as being as it is. And if somebody tries to say that your story is not that bad, or I have a worse story, it's not their place to say, and it's not our place to decide that, oh, ours is worse or ours is bad. You don't know. You have to honor yourself and say, this is my story. The question is, what is going to be the next chapter of my life story? Is the chapter that's coming up next still creating the same story that was? So if you are stuck and you are where you are, maybe it's because you have not decided to create a new story and a new chapter. Okay. You could even write a whole new book if you wanted to, but that's how you have to look at it. So my heart goes out, my compassion goes out to the individuals who have suffered traumas and have not found their footing yet. See, the story is based on the stories are about trauma to triumph to transformation. And the reason there's 3 parts, because you can have a trauma and you can get to that place and be, oh my gosh, and in the midst of it. And then you triumph past that trauma. Triumph is enough. You have to form. You have to go beyond, because if you don't, you will just live a mediocre life. If you transform your life, that means that you have learned something from this trauma, and that you are aware and honor yourself for triumphing over that trauma. But now it's time to let go. It's time to let go and shed the wounds that you received from those traumas, and even from the fight to get to that triumph. And that's the whole point of transformation. Transformation is getting you to that next level, to be able to say things like, I'm grateful for the experience, even if it was a horrific experience, or I forgive the individual that did that to me. And more importantly, I forgive myself, because of the amount of guilt that often comes in with traumas where we blame ourselves. How did we let this happen? How did I not fight back? What did I do to my kids because they saw this was happening to me? And we beat ourselves up, and we have to learn to forgive ourselves. So triumphing over it is one piece, and it's an applauding piece, because for those of you that did get out of your situations, that's phenomenal. It's incredible. But are you healed from it? And that's where you need to know that you have a tribe of women that have gone through things, that are willing to share their story, to explain to you what they went through. And maybe you resonate with each of these individuals, one of these individuals, but to know that you're not alone, and that you can move forward from here. What is it that is going to inspire you from the stories in this book, from these authors, from these phenomenal women who decided to be the badass in their life? And that is what this story is about. Her badass story. I came up with that name, and I had been wanting to write a book about people's stories for, I think, about prior to this. I decided to do this in April of this year, but prior to that, over the last couple of years, I had thought about that. I had even thought about making creating a show called Your Story and have people come up and interview them on their story. It could be famous people, it could be lay people, but I wanted it out there because we cannot hear this enough, so that you know you're not alone. And that if you need someone, there's always somebody in the tribe. There's always somebody there for you. You just have to know where to look and where to reach out. And each of these phenomenal authors are going to put, we're going to put links on there where you can reach out to them. You could start connecting with them tonight. The launch of the book was postponed, but it is now November 23rd. And I really, really encourage you. We're going to be posting links for you to connect. And we really, really want you to be, clicking on the links and purchasing. And we really want to knock this out of the water. And I want to welcome Charmaine Reeves, our girl, our angel there. So hi, Charmaine. We're so glad you're here. Charmaine's always supporting, man. She's always loving on us. So thank you so much, everyone that has been coming on. And please put comments, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, we will see the comments. We'll acknowledge the comments. If you have any questions on anything, we can answer them. The goal here tonight is to have each of our authors introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their background, and basically why they decided this was so important to share their story. So the first up for this evening is going to be the lovely Kelly Surette. So I'm going to move Kelly over, and then I will put Kelly's info into the chat box. So good. And now unmute yourself, Miss Kelly.
I'm unmuted.
So why don't you tell everybody, who you are, your background just a little bit about yourself personally.
Sure. So I'm from Groveland, Massachusetts, originally from Connecticut, but I live in Groveland. And my background is predominantly in music and musical theater. So I started doing musical theater from a very young age, and have continued to do that through college and now on a professional level as a musical theater composer. So I went to school for it. That's me in a nutshell. I also have 2 daughters. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. Go Connecticut. Yes, Charmaine. Yes, I'm originally from Durham, Connecticut. So if you live in Connecticut, you may have heard of a little thing called the Durham Fair. So I am from Durham. We always got the Friday of the fair off. So it was really fun growing up to live in Durham. So yay, Connecticut.
Wonderful. Yeah, I know Durham. Durham's nice. Yes. Farm area. I remember my youngest daughter, my middle daughter, when she was a baby, she was really sensitive to smells. And we
driving through.
Oh my God. So we went to the fair, and we get out, and the minute you get out of the car, you get hit with cow manure, horse manure.
Yep.
And I looked at her dad and I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And as we get her into the stroller, and then all of a sudden within minutes, not even, like a minute, we're starting to walk in, and she starts she starts dry heaving. And I'm like, okay, we turned her right back around, put her back in the car. And then that was that. We never went to the Durham Fair. We were never able to go. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit about your business.
So I own an LLC called Surette Theatricals. And it's a new business with musical theater. I write musicals. So the first musical that we have produced through that LLC is called Mom's the Musical, and it's about motherhood, as you might guess. So not to give away what my story is about, but it has a little bit to do with the creation of that show and the launch of that show in New York.
Fabulous. Yeah. Yes. So Kelly, she really is a badass. Like, all these women are badasses. I'm going to tell you right now. When individuals found that 2020 sidelined them, some of these individuals sitting, right here, took it upon themselves to just reinvent themselves, or just say, okay, I have to go into a different direction. And some of the stories reflect this, and some of the things that were invented during 2020, during all this pandemic thing. So Kelly's definitely one of them. So Kelly, why was it so important for you to, and I'm going to ask everybody this, but why was it so important for you to share your story?
I think More than anything, to be very honest, it's those 2 little girls in that room. I'm home alone with them tonight, so if they pop in, I bribed them with a movie and there's munchkins, so hopefully they will stay busy in there, but, it's those 2 little girls. I mean, I think that when I became a mother, it really threw me for a whirl. I was not expecting the reaction that I had in myself. I don't know what I was expecting, what the movies say or what society puts on you, which is, you have to fall in love with motherhood and it's going to be just this beautiful thing. And I just didn't experience it that way. It was something that really shook my self-identity. And so I sort of eventually stepped into, how do I redefine myself as a mother and still as Kelly? And how do I have an independent personality and independent interests away from being a mother and, still be a good mother? And I struggled with this. I struggled with this so much. And I think that at the end of the day, I had pressures on me, making me feel like, well, maybe I'm not as good a mother if I go and pursue my career or go and pursue my dreams or go out there and go after what I want. Because when I go after what I want, I go after it hard. I don't give up. I fight. I work my ass off. I do hours and hours and hours of work.
You're a badass.
What?
You're a badass.
Yeah. What?
Because you're a badass. That's why.
I bust. Well, maybe, but I have a very strong work ethic and I put in the time and I put in the work and I just always have been that way. So when I go for something, I go for something 150%. And, it was the pressure that I felt around being a mother was like, well, you should want to do this with your daughters and you should feel this way about your children and you should be willing to sacrifice to be able to be with them and do, be a mother. And I kind of came to this point where I was just like, this just isn't me. I need to go after my dreams. And you know what? It's okay if I do that because my 2 girls will understand that it doesn't matter what age you are, how many degrees you have, whatever background you have, you can teach yourself, you can learn, you can grow, and you can transform yourself to be whoever you want to be. And I stepped into that. And this is why I wanted to share this story, because I want my daughters to see that, hey, you can go and contribute to a book if you want to. And it doesn't matter how big or small you think your story is, how, I had a friend who was, considering writing a book and she's like, but I don't really have anything to contribute. And I don't know if my story, is good enough. And it's like, there's people with much worse stories than me. And it's like, no, like what Dr. Lori said at the beginning is that your story is your story and there's no better or worse, or it's just different. And every story can inspire no matter what it looks like. And so I wanted to put my story out there through this book to show my daughters that they can be empowered to tell their story no matter where they are in life. If they're the frumpy dumpy mom who's wearing yoga pants every day, or they're the corporate, executive, they can tell their story and it's going to matter. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this book more than anything. I mean, of course, it's also to impact other women, to inspire other women to get out there and tell their story and to not be afraid and to speak out about the injustices they've experienced and the transformation and the work that they've done. I mean, we talk about trauma to triumph to transformation. And what I think we don't always admit or say about that is how much goddamn work that is to go from trauma to go to the triumph and then to get to that transformation. That's not just like, oh, this is the path you go on. That's like struggle, maybe fall down, cry on the bathroom floor, get back up, get out there, try and transform, fail, get back down again, then maybe get back up, then go on. And like to get to triumph and total transformation is a tremendous amount of work and effort. And it takes, putting yourself looking yourself in the mirror and saying, who do I want to be? How do I want to live my life? And making those changes, and then following through on them with consistency and clarity and passion and all of those things. And so, obviously, I also wanted to tell my story because I think that other women can benefit from hearing that, yeah, something bad can happen to you, or you can go through something that's difficult and challenging. But if you work hard enough and you work on yourself and you do the work, you can get to that transformation. So that was a really important piece for me as well.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, and I'm glad you brought that up. I put the book in the background. It's okay if it blocks my face. Nobody needs to see
Oh, there
me.
you are back
And
there.
it's
I see
okay.
you.
It's all right. Here, wait, and maybe I do this. There we go.
There you
Here
are.
we go. I'm right here.
Hi.
So, it that is a good point. And especially when you have children, or if you have grandchildren, or just like Gladiator Guru says, Margarita de Margarita says, you could be an awesome auntie. It doesn't matter. Any child that is in your life, this is very inspirational for, because it's yes, it's scary to share your story. A lot of stuff came up for all of us. When we were writing this, this was not an easy task to do, to ask people to write their story. And even still, some of us are holding on to like the tables and, white knuckling, going, well, wait till this thing gets published, because it's going to be eye opening for some people. But I think the bottom line is this, that there's a level that we all understand that this is also the last way, this not the last way, but this is a way of releasing, that this is a piece that we've held on to. And maybe this might be the first time the story is being put out, and it might be the last time that it's discussed, because it needed to come out. And for you to be brave enough to do, put your story out there, your daughters are going to look at you and they're going to be like, look what my mom did. Like, look what she really is, a badass. And I know yours are little, so you don't want them to walk around going badass, badass. But I have an 8-year-old, and I tell her that all the time. I said, remember, you are a badass, and she'll repeat it. And I don't care. And if any mother has a problem with that, or any parent, I'm like, they could talk to me. I'm fine with that. But so what, I know we have just like a few minutes left. We have 5 minutes left. What do you want to do going forward? Like, what are you hoping that when people read this, like, what is it going to do? Like, some people want to use it to build their business, their clientele. As I see, Charmaine wrote this to you. So Charmaine wrote, Kelly, I went to buy a ticket to support you, because Charmaine, I'm telling you, she is the ultimate supporter. But it was back in July. So she'll connect with you, Playwright Angels Network. And that's what her place is. Angels are networking. But it's good to have the support. So going forward, what are you hoping that this helps you with for your future endeavors?
Well, I mean, I think more than anything, writing this chapter clarified a lot of things for me personally. Just like you said, it kind of made me, maybe it's the last time I'll talk about it. Like, it put to bed a lot of things that I don't think I've ever articulated out loud. And I think for me, it gave me a tremendous amount of healing to write it in the first place. And so, of course, I want to sell my show and do all the things and be, I want the book to succeed and all of those things. But I think more important to me than anything has been that for the first time in my life, I feel like I articulated my entire relationship with what my career has been from a very young age, and looked at that in a way through a lens that I've never looked at it before. And what I do next, I don't know. I'm excited to even potentially maybe move on to even something new, another transformation perhaps, because I you grow so much, and then you hit a point where you're like, okay, I need the next challenge, I need the next way to grow. And so I think this book pushed me to put a lot of things to bed that now maybe I'll be able to even do something completely different out of left field and surprise you all with what I do next. We'll see.
And that's true, because you surprised the heck out of me. One minute she's writing a book, and then all of a sudden she's like sending me something about a musical, and I'm like, what? And then now, yeah, I wouldn't. You probably like produce a TV show or something. I don't know. It's whatever it is. It'll be in the entertainment field of some sort, because you are.
I don't know.
Really
I don't know. We'll see. We'll chat. There's plans.
Maybe you'll start a garbage company or something. I don't know.
You never know. You never know. I have lots to do in this world.
The bottom line is this, Kelly, you are proving to your daughters and to all the women out there that when you are the badass in your life, you can overcome the challenge, do anything that you decide that you want to do, and you can be as diverse as you want. You can go from right to left as long as you're honoring yourself. And I want to thank you so much for being part of this project. It's your story is phenomenal. All the stories are phenomenal. I read each and every story and was crying through each story. And I think what I was crying mostly about was the fact that all of you shared so much of yourselves, and you really didn't hold back. And that's what I envisioned for this book. And I'm so thrilled that you all were a part of it. So thank you, Kelly.
Yes. Can I just say one more thing? I have 1 minute left of my time. And I do want to mention, because I know that she's not going to mention it for herself, is that Dr. Lori has been the leader and the helm of this project from day one. And she has inspired all of us women to keep going, keep writing. She has been there when we've needed her. And I just want her to be recognized for her amazing story that is in this book, and just the person behind this incredible project. So we should all unmute and give Dr. Lori a round of applause, because she's amazing. So that's it. I'm at my time.
Okay. And I'm so glad I'm hidden behind the book, because then you didn't get to see my embarrassed face, But thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, all right, we're gonna go to the next person in line, the beautiful Miz Charisse. So we're gonna swap you out. Where are you on here, Charisse? There we go. So we're gonna swap you out. There she is.
Hi.
She is in the house. I'm so happy you're here. This is a busy lady. Let me tell you, she's got you have you work full-time, and you have a full-time business that you own, correct?
Yeah. Actually, I have two businesses. I'm a contract. So I'll give everyone the lowdown here.
So first introduce yourself personally. Yourself, then we'll get to the business.
Okay. My name is Charisse Hughson-Chitolie, and I am a nurse practitioner by trade. So I've been in nursing a little over 28 years now. Before I get into myself, I want to thank you, Dr. Lori. I tell you, without you, this wouldn't have happened, and we really appreciate your support and your guidance. So I thank you for that, and I thank God that I'm here. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and it's come to pass, and so I'm so excited. And I had to say that because a lot of times I don't live in the moment. I make plans, and then I move forward. I don't live in the moment. And so I think I've been made to live in this moment right here. I don't have a choice. See, I'm live right now, and I have to do so many other things before this book comes out. So I have to live in this moment, and I have to just be grateful for where I am. So with that being said, again, I've been in nursing for over 28 years. I'm a nurse practitioner by trade, a family nurse practitioner, and I'm specializing in mental health. So I've been in mental health about 13 years. With this and moving forward, I am married. I have grown children, 2 biological, but I am the mother of many. And I have just grown to a point that really all I want to do is support and kind of inspire women, because we all have a story. We've all been somewhere, and things have happened that may not have happened to me. Of course, I can empathize, but that's the extent. And so when it's coming from that person and we're feeling that story, it is something else. So with that, I have just been working towards this. I have a business with both of my daughters who are registered nurses, and that's I Hydrate. We do IV infusions. And we started that in 2017. It was something that kind of was, okay, what are we going to do? We have the skill set. to do anything, but do we want to continue to work in, the regular places, or do we want to step out and do something different? And both of the young ladies said, yes, let's start this IV hydration business. And we have done that, and it's done extremely well. And so with that and my office where I see patients, I'm working with a psychiatrist, and I do mental health assessments and see patients and inspiration or inspire the young ones. I love teenagers, but I work with every age group. And that's what I do. Now, outside of that, volunteering, um, at my church and at school. And I have a grandson that's actually 11 years old. And so he's an awesome kid, but I do as much as I can with him. Again, life is very short. In my practice, my approach is holistic, because I think that we all realize things that have happened mentally in our past or even now will affect you physically, and vice versa. So if you have a physical ailment, a lot of times I'm asking, tell me your stress, tell me your stressors, tell me what's going on in your life. And then I understand why your blood pressure is elevated or your pulse is elevated, and especially in younger population and things like that. So this has really helped me step back and put out there what I've learned over the years, what I've been able to bring together over the years for my patients. And that's where I am.
That's awesome. And I want everybody, all the badass authors out there that are on right now, I want you to raise your hand if you would like to see Charisse's license, because she's not able to have grown kids and an 11-year-old grandchild, right? So if you want to see her driver's license, okay. So you're gonna have to give that up to us at some point. Not here live, but at some point.
Absolutely.
So that, I think I loved reading your story. And again, tonight is not the night for us to give out the stories. It's just to talk about who we are and to say why we did this. If y'all want to see the stories, you're going to have to hit the link that we provide in a couple of weeks and get the digital ebook, which is going to come out first on November 23rd. And then we are going to have the paper book. Hopefully it'll be out between Christmas and New Year's, where maybe it'll be out even before Christmas, but we're going to do our best because we pushed the date back a little bit, but it's no big deal. So tell us, my dear, why was it so important for you to share your story? Like what was it like, and why did it all of a sudden seem okay to do it now? Like why was it important, and why now?
Why now? Now was the time, and you provided that. You were the vehicle for that part. So I don't believe in things just happening. This was the time to do it, and you allowed that to happen on you. I'm just got in the bus with you, and we just kept going. So I appreciate that. My story is not unlike others, and especially in my age. A lot of times in my office, I will get women my age that are telling similar stories, but they've never been able to talk about it. And they're carrying this trauma, they're carrying this concern, or they're just carrying the weight. I have 4 brothers, and as the only female for a long time, I have a younger sister now who is 14 years younger than me. And so for 14 years, it was just me on my easy bake oven cooking dinner for my brothers, things like that. So there are women out there that have the same story. And I realize when I am in assessing them or, having a session with them, that they have been heard. We grew up in a different time. And in that time, women were not heard all the time. It was, you do what you're told, you're the last one to eat. You're the last one to do this because you need to serve. And that's how I grew up, serving. And so when I hear that, oh, no one's ever talked to you about that, or you've never been able to talk to anyone about your abuse or your trauma or anything, no, they haven't. So I thought it was really important for me to be able to put this out there, because although I'm private, I don't believe in hiding traumatic events or great events that could help someone else move them along or give them the okay to say, that happened to me, and what did you do to heal?
Yeah, and I agree with you there. And I think we've come to a point in time where we don't have to hide anymore, you know. And I really feel for the generations who endured so much and they didn't say anything, and they lived with the traumas, and they kept it real close in the family, and family members, some of them knew, but nobody said anything because it was hush hush. And part of it had to do with the fact that the family didn't want anybody to know either, because what are they going to think? And I'm glad that we've reached a point in our world now where people are being brave enough to share their story. And because in some elements too, some of these stories are happening way too much, and they're still happening, and they don't need to happen anymore. And so that the only way to prevent them, or to lessen them at least, at the very least, is to keep making people aware that this is happening, and notice the signs, and know that there's people out there, you know, like for instance, if those of you that are out there, if you are resonating with, you read Charisse's chapter, and you resonate with her, and you connect, and then you say, oh, how can I connect with her, because I want to be able to, maybe I have a question, or, you know, I want to share with her my story because it's so similar. But that's how this rolls. You know, it starts conversations. It makes other people be brave. So that's absolutely phenomenal. How does your family feel? Are they excited about you releasing the book?
Well, everyone is excited. No one has read it. Like, no one. My mother, I did, you know, I asked her a couple of questions because Dr. Lori, you and I spoke about my mom, who is my inspiration. And so that's the extent. No one else has read it. And with that being said, I'm just kind of like, it's not a lie, though. You know, these are truths, and these are things that I did take in consideration, because sometimes there are things that are buried that don't make sense to bring back up.
Correct.
You know, you've gone on, you've healed from it. You hope that person has healed from it, or are not doing it, or whatever. And so those are things that are in the past. It doesn't make sense. It's not healthy to bring those things up. And so as I was writing, that's something that I did realize. And I thought, okay, is this going to be relevant to my story? And is this going to help anyone else? Or is it going to make anyone else look bad? And that's not what I wanted at all. So, yeah.
And you brought up a good point, because, you know, if an individual, you know, sometimes the story, if you've gone to a certain level of your story, and this is really important to understand. So for those of you that have your story, and for those of you that are stuck, for those of you that are really still working through it, that you're not healed from it, that's an indicator that you have to move forward, that you have to reach out. You need some sort of assistance, whether it's a therapist, or it's a coach, or it's a really good friend, somebody that you have to really, you know, work with, or you could even do it yourself if you're strong enough and do your own personal development. But for those of you that are past another point, and bringing up the story, it doesn't even make sense anymore, because you actually feel that you've moved past it. And if you bring the story back in and relive it, it's going to set you back. That's something to consider. I'm glad you actually brought that up, because that's the intention of this book, is to inspire. And we don't ever want anybody to go back and say, you know, I never, you know, I should tell my story. And even though you feel like you've gone past it, but if this inspires you to open those things again, because you did not fully heal, and that's the hardest part about this story, is that when you tell your story, and if it involves other people, they don't tend to like it too much, you know, and so they're the ones that usually often don't want the story to come up, because it puts them maybe into a bad light and whatever. And it could have been years ago, but nonetheless, they've moved on. But if you haven't moved on, don't worry about what the other person has to say. You know,
you can't. It's about your healing.
That's
if you're in our seat and you're putting your truth out there, it's about your healing. It's not about anyone else's. But again, I did take in consideration some things. I've left some things out, because that's for the next book. Okay, that's for you when you get ready to do your next one, and you know, I'll be there.
Oh, you got another story? All right, my goodness.
Oh, of course.
We're gonna have like multiple volumes with you, and we'll highlight you in each one. Oh my gosh.
Yes, of course. I don't think that in this chapter, I could have gotten, this is like the tip of the iceberg, but it's the foundation. And a lot of times, that's where everything starts. So if you're starting and you're acknowledging your foundation, whether it was good or bad, then you're able to move on, because then it's the next chapter and the next chapter and the next chapter. And that's how I feel about this. I was able to get this out, and I feel really good about it. Because again, I work with teenagers, and a lot of teenagers, some of the things that they're asking, I've been there. I've done it. And I mean, yes, I'm middle-aged, and sometimes they're like, oh, you're old. And that's fine with me. That's fine with me. But
Yeah, but you
nothing
gotta say,
new
but
was
I
under
look
the sun.
good. Like, yeah, I might be old, but I look good. Like, you'll be
Right.
jealous when you're this age. I'm gonna tell you.
Nothing new is under the sun. So when they're sneaking out, or they're, lying to their parents about where they're going and what they're doing, we all have done that.
Oh yeah.
We've all been there. I just want them to understand the consequences and try to give them an idea of there are better choices. There are different choices that you can make. And so that's what it's all about, just bringing awareness and letting them know that we support them and that we're here.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing all that. It's wonderful. And thank you for being a part of this. Your story's phenomenal, and you're a phenomenal individual, and very, very inspiring for everything that you've accomplished in your life. And it's great. And I want to ask all the authors if you would put your hands up to say, how has writing this inspired you to want to write further? Are all of you? Because I know for me, I mean, I've always wanted to be a writer, and this kind of, so and that's the other cool thing about this, there compilation books. I'm actually going to jump in the front here, so Charisse, and then Charisse is going to be behind there. You have to move to the side so you don't see the oh, there we go. So and then I'll put myself back there in a moment, but and look at Charmaine. You are amazing, Charisse. Love you. This is, the whole point of the compilation books. The author writes one chapter, which others could say, oh, well, that's not that much. But let me tell you, it's hard to write one damn chapter. I'm going to say that. Like, we all were like, what are you talking about? Right. And so if you want to be a writer and write a book, think about how many chapters you're going to write in your own book. I've always said I wanted to be a writer, and I've got files of papers that notes that I've taken, but I don't know how to put them into a book, And so for me, part of this too was that it was good for me to get my feet wet. Like it was a nice way to just ease my way into the writing process. Now I'm so inspired that I want to keep going with this. Like I'm thinking next year I want to put out 2 books, and one of them is Gladiator Guru, and I've talked about doing one together, and then I was thinking of doing another one myself, and then doing another compilation book, and I don't know when and what order, but so I'm glad that it inspired all of you to do that. And again, you write your story. This is why we're doing this. We want you to share your story and write your story down. You don't have, whether you publish your story or you just keep it in your own journal, but you write it down. Okay. All right. So our next lovely up is the Miss Chenille Real Deal. Here she is. We're gonna put Chenille up. All right. So welcome, Chanel. So Chenille, so tell everybody about yourself, like your personal self, and then we'll go into what you do for your business, and we'll add it to that.
Yes. First off, just like everyone else said, thank you, Lori, for this journey. It's been amazing. And everything that Charisse, did I say it right? Charisse, I'm sorry, but we need to connect because I love the Ivy. I've done the Ivy and I love it. So we're connecting. But everything she said and Kelly said, I mean, I second everything they said because you're amazing. So about myself, Chenille the Real Deal Chenille, as I like to call myself, just because I keep it real and whatever I do. And if people don't like it, then keep walking. But so that's kind of how it is. I live my truth and I like to show the truth. I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut originally. I am now northern, eastern Connecticut, closer to Hartford area. I went to school for communication and TV, thought I was going to be a big superstar, and then realized there's a lot more work that I wanted to do. So just kind of went on the behind the scenes aspect of it, which was a great time in my career. I worked with children as a teen and in my early 20s and in college, because I did go for teaching at first. So I still work with kids now. I work with teenagers now, girls right now, ages 13 to 18, towards the, as volunteering. So you'll hear a little bit more of my mission on that in the book when you buy it and read it and sign up for it. But I work right now for a company who does over-the-counter health and wellness products, mostly geared to women. We're branching out now more to men. We do a lot of probiotics and a lot of azo, if you've heard of azo for urinary tract infection, and estrogen for our menopause, premenopause, all that fun stuff that the women get to endure in their life, just like everything that we get on our shoulders as far as bearing and carrying children, all the fun stuff. So, we just try to make it easier for everyone in our organization by having good products that are, gluten-free, all the fun stuff everybody's looking at now, a lot of marketing and sales. So that's kind of where I'm at right now in my career. What I continue to inspire, like I said, I work with teenage girls right now as volunteer, and I love it. I hope to grow this program and bring it and have it reach out to many more inner city places throughout the world. Right now, we're just in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is my home and dear to me, because many women and girls, like we said, don't have mentors, don't have people to talk about jumping out of a window to go sneak out and see a boy or whatever craziness you want to do. And they need these women. They need us. They need even younger people than us to lead them and steer them in the right way. Or at least give them guidance, because we all are going to make our own mistakes and live our own lives, and we have to learn from it. But that's pretty much, I guess. I mean, I love to party. I love to socialize. I love to dance. I'm going dancing with my mom tomorrow. I love my family. I have a wonderful husband who supports me in everything I do. Again, no one has read my story. People know it, I guess, sort of. I don't know. They might be scared of what I'm going to say, because there's a whole lot in my life that's happened. But again, I didn't offend anyone. It's just my truth that I want certain things to be buried, just like Kelly said. Get it over with. It's written. I've spoken about it. I've written about it before, but it's never been out for everyone to understand where I come with it. So once that's out, I hope to bury that chapter of my life, not in a bad way, but just not talk about it so much and just embrace all the good things that have come from it.
Well, and that's the beauty of it, embracing all the good things that come from the story and what you learned. And let me tell you, she calls herself Chenille Real Deal. Okay. And she really is the real deal. Like, she is, the first time I met her was through the show, through Margarita. And Chenille is she's been phenomenal. She's such a devoted fan of the show. She's always sharing everything, and she just dives in, and what you see is what you get. And I was so thrilled that you were I think you were the first person that jumped on this. Like, when I started asking people, you were like, I'm in. It's like, I couldn't even finish the sentence. Like, I'm like, well, Chenille, but let me say this. And she's like, no, I'm in. Like, it wasn't, I couldn't even get it all out yet. So, and your story is so effing cool. Like, it really is. It's a story that people are going to be like, oh, they're not expecting this,
Right.
Because when you think of stories, most of them, it's a personal story. Everything in here is personal story, but most personal stories stem from certain specific things, and yours is like really very badass in the sense of, wow, like I wasn't expecting her to tell a story like this, so I can't wait for everybody to read it. So why was it important for you to share your story? Like, what, and like I said with when I asked Charisse, like, why now? Like, why was it important to share it, and why did it seem to work of all times, like now, for you to share it?
Well, again, so I finished my master's in 2019, and one of the first projects in 2018 and one of my classes was helping. I got my master's in organizational leadership. So a lot of it was about being a leader, being a leader within your groups, within your culture, within your job, or wherever, because leadership is everywhere. And one of our first tasks was to do a TED Talk about ourselves. So that was like the first time that I kind of put my thoughts to paper and to actually speak it out loud of certain things that I had gone through that I thought were a big accomplishment, but were hidden and not told to me. And so when I spoke that, there was a lot of people actually in my master's program that just thought I was kind of phony, because I kind of would just walk in late from work and grab my food, sit in the corner, and not really talk to anybody, eat my snacks and do my thing. And they're just like, who the heck is this chick? So after I did my TED Talk in front of everyone, I got all these, I have 5 really good friends from there. I love my whole class, but they're like, oh my God, she really is like the shit. Like, she's not lying. Like, all the things she says, they all thought I was just coming up with stories and things. I'm like, no, that's really my life. So between that and then pandemic and just, again, it's just something that I had to get out. And I've always wanted to write. I mean, in your master's, all you do is write. So I'm like, God, I mean, every week I had a paper to turn in. So I just got a little bit better at writing, even throughout my career. Like, you know, you dread doing your personal assessments, you dread doing all this stuff, but it kind of just flows. Like, once I got that first sentence going for any of that, it just flowed. But I never like thought about doing a book. And I had a few friends actually in the last 2 years who actually have launched compilation books. So I've read their stories as well. And I'm like, this is so cool. So when Lori asked me to be on the show, and then afterwards, she's like, oh my God, like, can you be in the book? I'm like, yes, because I don't know. I was waiting for an outlet. I didn't know how to go about it. It wasn't something, you know, I'm not an entrepreneur, even though I can be, because we all can be, right? But how much work do you want to put into it, or what do you want to do? We can sell anything. And this journey has led me to want to do a lot of other things that, again, just like Kelly, is like, do, what's going next? Because I'm ready. And just like you said, Lori, you don't know what's going to come after this book launch. So I'm trying to get my life in a little bit more organized, because I'm all over the place with a million things. So I'm like, things are going to come and I got to be ready. So. And
that, you know what, I'm glad you said that, but that's the truth, because that is what happens. You know, once you face one hurdle, or you go over one hurdle, or you open one door, or you close one door in this case, it sets things in motion, you know. And sometimes, again, you know, when you're telling your story, and if it does affect other people, there's always that hesitation that it's going to, oh God, this person's not going to be happy. But and I've gone through that myself. Like, this is what truth be told, that's what I'm dealing with mine. But it's if it's important enough, if this is something that's still within you and it's put on paper, then that means that it's still not rectified. It still needs to come out. And then when you release that energy, what is that going to bring to you now? Right. And I know that. I think the moment that this goes out for you, you are going to literally, like, it's just and I think it's not even just the opportunities are going to come in for you and everybody else. I think it's going to open up a space in your brain to bring in more creativity. Like, what else can I do? What am I seeing myself doing here? What is your think of publish? Like, what does she think?
You broke up a little bit. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. What does your daughter think about the project?
Actually, that's why I was late. I was running to grab her from soccer game that we had no idea what time it finished, but you know, it's a motherly life. She hasn't said much about it. She's actually in the other room. I go, dinner's there, grab your dinner. I'll be there in a little bit. I mean, she's definitely always proud and saying I work too much. Not that she says I work too much. She's like, Mom, take a sick day when you really don't feel good. It's okay. You're always working. So I know she's going to be proud, and it's probably going to be stuff that she might have heard me talk about, because we're really close and I only have one child. So she's always with me. So she hears a lot of things. I'm sure she has an idea. But she's going to be happy. I really haven't asked her or my husband. I kind of just said, hey, I have this book thing. I can't talk right now. I have this. I haven't really given much detail. So it'll be interesting that once it is out and we have a copy here and her ebook, and how her reaction, I will have to talk have a separate conversation, a little one-on-one counseling together and see where her thoughts are. But I know she'll be super proud because she's just super proud and loves her parents, me. Who can't love me? No, I'm kidding.
I know, that's the truth. She's got a badass mom. And you have some fans on tonight. I see Luis Hernandez is saying I love you. So hopefully you know him, right? Because
my father.
Okay. And then Juan Hernandez is in the house. I love you too.
Cool.
So that's phenomenal. And it's, this is something to be very proud of. And Chenille and I have talked about collaborating together as well, because, the more I got to know Chenille and what she does and what her background is, the more I started to think about, my one daughter has had challenges, and then talking with Chenille, that's the thing. It's like you get to know everybody that's doing the compilation with you, and then you start to see like the things that you have in common. So lots of things are coming out there from Real Deal Chenille. I'm telling you, she is. And look, Jennifer Lynn has something to say. You are a rock star. That's right. See that? And we all love you. But you brought on a real big crew. Look at this. Look at all these people.
Sales and marketing. I promote. I mean,
look, here's another one. Jennifer Lynn again, sister prima. Okay, so fabulous. That's all wonderful. So Chenille, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, ladies.
Thrilled to have you. So thank you so much for all your support, for jumping in on this, for just being so, your energy throughout the whole thing has just been absolutely fabulous. And you really are the real deal. And I'm proud that you're on this project. And I'm so excited for all the future endeavors that we will collaborate on, or I will help, I'll support you and you'll support whatever we're doing as Viva Café con Leche. So thank you so much, Chenille.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, excuse me. Thank you.
So who is next? We have Miss Karen is in the house. So we're going to bring Miss Karen up. Here we go. All right. Miss Karen, so glad you are here with us this evening. So go ahead and introduce yourself and tell a little bit about who you are personally, and then we'll get into your business.
Sure. Excuse me. Sure. So I want to echo what everybody else said first, Lori, and thank you so much for making me part of this project. I have been wanting to write a book for many years and just never did it. So this kind of pushed me into that arena, and it's kind of cool, I gotta say. So thank you so much for being the badass leader that you are, because you taught us all how to do that. And so so my name is Karen Malley, and I am a health and nutrition coach, but I grew up in a kind of a challenging situation that if you buy the book, you'll find out what that was. And that's only just the tip of the iceberg. There was a lot more to it than that, but I was limited. I was only allowed one chapter, so sadly, I couldn't get into the whole thing. Maybe not so sadly, but I overcame some difficulties in my childhood, which manifested themselves in my later life. And I really kind of, as a part of this book or this experience, I really reflected on how my childhood influenced my later life, as it does to everybody. But I guess I never really dug into that. And it showed up in my body. It showed up in my carrying a lot of excess weight and not treating my body the way it needed to be treated. And that sort of rolled into some illnesses. And then once I became very ill, I realized that, this body is retaliating because of all the bad things that I've been doing to it. And I needed to do something to change that. So my trauma, I think, was just sort of the buildup of all of that. And the way I then took that on and built myself a very large suit of armor and walked around with that suit of armor on for many years. Although, that armor was different sizes depending on where I was in my life. I was up and down many, many pounds over the course of my life. And then, like I said, I became ill and sort of took stock of what was going on. And, you know, the rest is whatever it is. But this project really made me kind of look back on all of that and understand just how deeply ingrained all of those experiences were in my life and the chaos that went along with that. So, and I took chaos along in my life throughout my entire life. There's where I was, I could stir up crap anywhere I went, and I was very good at that. And to be able to reflect on that and be able to understand that if every situation I find myself in becomes chaotic, perhaps I might have something to do with that. And so I was the common denominator in those chaotic situations. So I'm still a work in process, as most of us are, and I work towards peace. Peace is like my big goal in life now, because I no longer want chaos in my life. And so, but that's all part of the transformation that I'm still working on. And I have to say that I probably feel like I have hit a triumph, or maybe multiple triumphs, but there are still more to come.
I think that is the important thing to be said here, is that no matter what, there will always be something, hopefully less as we go through our lives, but it's the acknowledging the triumphs, acknowledging the trauma, acknowledging the triumphs, and then how have you transformed? Is there more work to be done? Transformation's lifelong, we know that, and Karen, we've talked about that, ourselves, and it's, when you don't deal with it, it just stays there, and it just doesn't, you can heal to a certain level, but there's always going to be something, and it's always going to bring you back to that level. And, especially what you do for a living, has shaped what you do for a living, everything that you've gone through. So why don't you tell everybody what it is that you do for a living?
Sure. So now I am a certified nutrition and health coach. I used to work in the corporate environment, as many of us have, for many years, and I retired from that about 3.5 years ago. But as a result of my own health challenges, I decided to, I found not only did I find my own way out of my health challenges, but I found that I really loved doing that and changing, making such a dramatic change in my own body that I wanted to help other people do the same thing. So I decided to I became certified in health coaching, and then furthered my education by becoming certified in nutritional consulting. And that's what I do now. And I primarily help women who live with or are at risk for developing chronic illness, like heart disease or diabetes or high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, any of these things that we can manage through lifestyle and nutrition, because so many of these conditions are either preventable, or certainly we are able to reduce the impact on our bodies, or we may even be able to reverse them if we really work hard. But it's important to take stock of how you treat your body, because it's not only what you eat, but it's what you feed yourself, your body. It's what you feed your mind. It's how you manage your stress. It's how you get your sleep. It's how you keep yourself hydrated. It's all of the things that influence our entire life that we have to really take stock of. And that's really where I help my clients do is find their way through. And most of my clients have probably not been through quite as much as I've been through, but I've probably experienced much of what they've experienced. So I can help them through it. And I really do walk my talk, as most of us, I think, in this line of work do, is that we've already walked through the fire, and we're showing you that it's, there is life on the other side. And quite honestly, life on the other side is a whole lot nicer than life in the mud.
Yeah, amen to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you really do. You're very passionate about what I'm right behind the book.
Yeah.
You're very passionate about health and wellness, and when people say, well, I don't know, I can't do this or whatever, and you're proof positive of the things that you can change in your life.
Absolutely.
What so your story, I mean, what was so compelling now? Like, what made you feel like you wanted to say it now? Like, did something occur? I mean, okay, I asked people, and some people, but still, it still has to resonate with people. It has to align. why now? Like, why was it now you're like, okay, this is the time? Because you've probably thought, like you said, you thought about writing before. You might have been approached by other people, the idea, but what was it now that just seemed like it's time?
Well, I trusted you, number one, which is huge. Trust
Thank
is a
you.
big factor in my life that, you know, it takes a lot for me to have trust in another human being. So, so I honor you with my trust.
Thank you.
And so that was number one. But, you know, I'm a big Brene Brown fan, and she talks about shame sort of thriving in darkness. And there was a lot of shame around my childhood and things that went on and secrecy and all the, you know, everything that was hidden under the bed. And so, so to speak. And my belief is that if you shine light on it, it dissolves, or at least it minimizes it. It certainly minimizes the impact. And I no longer want to feel that anymore. And so I feel like, you know, this was a big step for me to sort of expose, you know, like open up my guts and show them to the world is really, is not something that I'm very comfortable with. But I think that mine is not a unique story. There are so many people, especially who grew up in my generation, where situations were kept secret because you didn't air your family laundry to the world. You just kind of kept the doors shut, closed the blinds if they needed to be closed.
Yes.
And everybody thought everything was wonderful, as long as the grass was cut. You know, everybody thought inside that house must be fine because the outside looks good. And so, and same with, you know, us. Everything is fine because everything is festering on the inside, but as long as you wear a smile on your face and put a little makeup on, then all is well in your world. But it's really about allowing people to understand that they are not alone, because it's so important to understand that, because it is an isolating, you know, a lot of these traumatic experiences that we have are very isolating, or we think that we are the only person in the world who could possibly feel this way, because how is it that you don't know about anybody else? But they did the same thing that we did, is that they kept everything behind that closed door.
And by keeping it in, you know, it affects us in so many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, and it affects everybody a little different, you know, so it's like, you can't even say across the board that when we keep things in, when we keep these, we don't let these traumas out, that, oh, well, the person's just going to have some mental issues. Like they may be a little depressed. These individual might be a binge eater. An individual might become very angry and become, you know, they start doing very deviant behaviors. I mean, there's so many ways that people, what's the word I'm looking for, that they react to their traumas, and they react to not letting go of those traumas. Mm-hmm. And so, and sometimes it doesn't come out for years, you know, it's just, or it's subtle. And then all of a sudden we get to a certain point and then we're like shocked. I was listening to something just before, it was it was a podcast, and she was talking about energy, and she was just talking about how, you know, she had a client that there was this thing going on, and it ended up being this thing that happened so long ago. And again, it was just so built up. And while she knew it was there, she just sort of didn't deal with it. And the energy was in such a way that the moment she released that energy, it just flowed out as far as what she was talking about. And she just started spewing out all that stuff, and she was done. She was like, wow, I didn't even know that was there. And I said it, and I'm done. And I think that's, you know, the beauty of this, like I said, this was not easy for some of the authors to write, because this is about, you know, these are your personal stories. And there's so many variables, you know, that play in here. So I'm thrilled, you know, I'm thrilled because I'm thrilled that you trusted me. And I'm very honored by that. And that was my goal, is to make sure that people felt that way in writing their story, but also this, because they're going to feel it through the book. Like, people who are going to read your story, Karen, are going to feel it through the book. And then that's going to really add to what you do for a living. Because listen, you know, when you read Karen's story, you're going to, and she's right, she could have wrote like 2-3 more chapters, like with her stuff, because I know her story. I know more of her story. But it's really going to validate you as a because, there's no doubt so those of you that are going to read the story, when you read Karen's story, if you're in that, if you're resonating with her, reach out. And I'm posting everything. I'm posting links. Connect now. Don't wait for that story to come out and for the links, but connect now. Go on Facebook, friend, follow, go on YouTube, subscribe to channels, whatever you need to do because these are badass women and they're part of your tribe. So Karen, is anyone in the family like excited about the book or nervous about the book or
excited? Probably not. As I said, shame grows in the dark, and sometimes it's easier to leave it there though, but it just, it kind of grows large. So yeah, there's been a little pushback for me. It is my story though. This isn't something that I'm not embellishing. In fact, I probably watered it down quite a bit. But it is the story that informs what I do and who I am. And it's, I want to inspire people. I want people to understand that change is possible and change is beneficial. And I'm there to help them walk through that fire. And if by showing them how I did it is going to help them to know that they can do it too, I think it's worth it. I think it's important to be there to hold somebody's hand. And the only way I can do that is by showing them what I've done. And, there are people in my world that maybe aren't ready for that, but I can't help them unless they want me to. So it is what it is. And I hope that they can understand that this is not about them. This is about me. It's about my story and my experience and how that experience was reflected in my life.
That's correct. That's absolutely right. My thought is this, that if individuals had an issue with you sharing your story, if it had any information on any other people, then they should have thought twice about doing what they did or behaving the way they did or in contributing in some sort the way that they did. That's how I think of it, because I don't think any of us should ever be ashamed to tell our story, even if there's other people involved, because if it's affected you and you cannot let go of it, and because inevitably, I think it was, I forgot the pastor's name, KT. Oh gosh, he does this phenomenal thing about the stuck and stumbling place. And it's one of my favorite little clips that I share with people of, you put yourself and stopped your life for other people or situations, and they moved on with their life, but you stayed stuck to punish them, but you really only punished yourself. And so that's why telling your story is so very important. So Karen, thank you so much for being a part of this project. I'm honored to have you. And it's just, I can't wait for everybody to read your story, and I can't wait for them to discover what you have to offer as far as your business services to help them move through some really tough times in their life. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori.
All right. I'm gonna put me out for a second. There we go. Okay. I'll move you, Karen. Don't worry. All right. Our next author is the lovely Jeronda is in the house. So I'm gonna move myself out of there and I'm gonna replace. There we go. So Jeronda. All right. So tell everybody about who you are personally, and then we'll go into your business.
Yeah. So like everybody else, I'm going to thank Lori, because I worked personally with Lori for a couple of years, and she has profoundly changed my life and gave me a lot of tools to help me start my journey in getting to where I am today. So I am forever grateful for you. So I am Geronda Wollack-Spiller. I am in Seattle, Washington with my wife and our 3 fur babies. She's trying to make it 4 or 5 or 6, but we'll see. My background is I am originally from Long Island, New York. I also am adopted. and as I mentioned, in the LGBTQ plus community. And my background really is HR project management. I have my degree in bachelor's is international business, master's is industrial organizational psychology, and what I'm doing right now full time is HR consulting for an optometry consulting firm. And I work remote, so it's been super nice to be working from home for quite some time now. And super excited that I got involved in this because, like everybody else, I've always wanted to write a book. Didn't know what it was going to be about. Also was horrified to share personal things about myself, but got to a place where I felt like if I can do this for not only myself but for other people, I can definitely empower others to have the experience that they hopefully would want to have in their lives. So that's a little introduction about myself.
All right. Awesome. But you also have started, you're working to put together a little something for yourself. Like you have your own business going on, right? Okay.
I
You
do.
don't leave that out. Because I'm
Well,
putting your
something.
strategy session in here, so people got to know what they're getting into.
I
Right?
know. So yes, I am a speaker and workshop facilitator for LGBTQ plus young adults. I also do some coaching as well. And really the premise of what I do is I empower LGBTQ young adults to really be courageous and confidently equipped to tackle and thrive throughout life challenges. And what started all this for me is that I knew since the 7th grade I wanted to be a speaker, but I allowed a lot of different outside influences and external influences to overcompromise my identity and what I truly wanted in my life. And so I went into the things that felt safe. And this is not to say that you can't go into business or anything else that won't bring you an exorbitant amount of joy. And I do like what I do. But at the same time, I wanted to be a chef, thought it was going to be the next Emerald Lagasse and going to
Right.
Paris and cooking for all these wealthy people. And it was shut down after being told, that how are you going to make money? It's super hard work to do. I don't know if it's going to be the right thing for you. And went and took something safe. I still cook a lot though, and I still watch Emerald, so that hasn't changed. And I felt like, doing a lot of that and getting into the LGBTQ plus community. I came out when I was 25 years old, but I knew that I was lesbian or something was different when I was 10. So I knew for a while, didn't know what it was. Took me a long time to get through that journey. And so I really want to help the community to be able to be okay with the fact that you're going to go through some shit in your life, just being LGBTQ, and you're going to have to come out for the rest of your life. But you can do things that feel right to your identity, and you don't have to compromise your authenticity for other people. And you can just be, kind of where I am in my life right now, which is humor-filled, sweatshirt wearing, IG living, badass, and
Right.
doing what you love. So I put on the suit today to be, show ready, but my authentic self is sweatshirts, and you can make those decisions for yourself too. So
listen, I'm lucky I have pants on. This whole Zoom thing. This whole Zoom thing has really been just lovely. I mean, there's days that I go on with like
awesome.
pajama pants. And it's funny when you're a coach and you're around coaches a lot, they're like, even when you're working from home, it makes you feel better. You got to get up and dress like you're going to the office and stuff like that. And I thought about it for a moment, like, well, if I could, I'd wear pajama bottoms to the office. So I'm going to wear my pajama bottoms, just put a nice shirt on, And I know why they say it, because they want you to be like, in a good headspace. And so I could be in a good headspace with a pair of sweatpants on and stuff. So I was like, I want to be comfortable. So,
I won't tell you what I'm wearing on the bottom. We'll just leave
okay,
that as a mystery.
So good. We won't all stand up and show everybody like our whole body. So why was this important for you? Like, why was it important, and why now? Like because I just want to say this because you brought it up. So you started this. So Jeronda was working with me, and it wasn't that long ago. And we were at a really different place not that long ago. And for you to decide to do this now was a really big thing, because that was in a short period of time, you went from like 0 to 60. So why now? Like, why maybe you didn't want to wait another year or two? Like, what was it about now?
Yeah, so I think now I'll say two things. My health was compromised, and my relationship almost was. And my wife is my biggest supporter, and she recognized that I really need to be the person that she met, and I'm there somewhere. I just didn't know what that meant or how to get myself out of that. And what through the journey with you, it was a lot of development there. But the biggest thing really now is that um, I'm 31 years old. On my 30th birthday, I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy. And if for those of you who don't know what Bell's palsy is, you go through this partial facial paralysis and you lose functioning on one side of your face or both sides, and you could get it throughout your life. And so I woke up one morning and my entire right side of my face was tight and drooping, and I thought I was having a stroke. And you can get Bell's palsy from what I understand, a couple of different ways. You can get it from shingles, which I didn't have, diabetes, which I don't have, or stress, which I had an exorbitant amount of. And stress for me was not coming out and living in my truth. And going through that point in time where I got Bell's palsy, and I was in a place where I was like, oh my God, I don't want anyone to see what I look like or my face, or what if they're going to say this about me. To, I was coaching with you, and I went through a coaching program because, you really influenced me to start doing coaching, speaking, workshop facilitation, is where I learned that I have to just release a lot of this to be able to help other people. And when you came to me about the story, I had told bits and pieces of my story to different people, but I've never put it out there. And with the community, I'm very passionate about the LGBTQ plus community and their success. I was like, I don't ever want someone to have so much stress and so much built up and pent up like I had to go through and potentially get Bell's palsy or go live every single day with all the stress in their life, where now I'm short fused and I'm getting in arguments with my wife for no reason at all. And so I thought, what a perfect time, because I'm in this fantastic place in my life where I've 100%, I would say 110% accepted myself. I want to do that for other people. And so while I was writing my story, although it was scary, because like a lot of you were saying, there are people who are going to read it and they're not going to be very happy. But at the same time, I'm going to help somebody else realize that you're going to go through all this crap, and it's going to be messy and it's going to feel weird. But imagine if you had the support that I wish I had, to be able to go through their life and figure out what does authenticity mean to you, and figuring that out and making decisions in your life that align with that, which is exactly where I am right now. So I just felt like it was just really perfectly the right time.
That was beautiful what you said. I mean, really, because what it's doing is it's giving people permission to be them and to let go and to honor themselves and not be afraid. And also, I would also think that based on reading all your stories, I read everybody's story, is also to know that there's the right people to connect to and the wrong people to connect to, so whatever trauma you're dealing with, that there, maybe you're not supposed to talk to your mother about this. Maybe you need to talk to somebody else about this, because for a lot of reasons, they're too close to the situation, or maybe they don't believe you or whatever. But I think, we're such a diverse group. We're we have so many different backgrounds. We're different ages. We're all so diverse, but yet in the end, the one thing that we have in common is we've had a trauma. We triumphed over the trauma and we transformed. And we'll all admittedly say that we're still a work in progress, that it is constant. Whenever we think we've got to a certain level, something might hit us again and we kind of knock us down. But the bottom line is that we have our tribe, we have each other. And that's what this is supposed to mean to all of you out there that are listening. So,
yeah. And I'll add to that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, your time. So go ahead.
Okay.
You're not
No,
supposed
I'll
to be
just,
talking.
no, you're good. No, I'll just add to that, you know, what, speaking of a tribe, when you start to see people who are getting themselves in a place where you want to be, you start to see that there's hope. And, you know, I feel like it was such a big journey, and I'm still working through the journey. You know, I'm always been an anxious person. But I'm in a place where I can better manage a lot of these different things. Whereas I'm not gonna be that person that goes back and when I was anxious would just not take action on things. Now I'm like, okay, anxiety, I feel you coming up, but you still got to do this thing, and we're gonna work through it. And now I'm taking so much more action to it. So you know, again, I want to be that person for the community. And I want to give a quick shout out too, because I see that she's on. Janine Spiller is my mother-in-law, and she's fantastic. And she has always been one of my biggest supporters in basically everything that I do. And so I want to thank you too for when I had met Michelle, that's my wife's name. I don't even think she cared what I did. She just wanted to know I was a good person. And I don't even think she knows what I do for a job still. And she just still thinks I'm a great person and one of my biggest supporters. So I just wanted to make a shout out to you, Janine, and I love you very much.
Oh, and that, you know what? I'm glad you said that too, because those individuals are angels. Those are the angels in our lives, that they don't care if you're, you know, scraping gum off the side of the road, and, you know, they don't care what you do. They just want to know that you are a phenomenal individual. Like, and we all have that ability to be a phenomenal individual. We're so unique. We have so many gifts to give the world, but we often fall, we stay quiet, or we sink because we don't think that we're enough. And the story plays into that, especially when, you know, the trauma that we have. So, well, Jeronda, thank you so much for being a part of this. I was thrilled, and I just have to say, so Jeronda was the last one. I think it was like, no, you weren't the last one to come on, but you were the longest one to say. I'm like, should I not? Should I not? So, and but you know what though, I know why. Like, after reading your story, I understand. You know, and it's and again, I think for some of us, when we even decided to jump on quickly, it was as the story was done and we're looking at it going, uh-oh, this is, you know, my goodness, you know. So we're all here for each other. And I love your story, is incredible. You really are a badass. I mean, we all are badasses, but Geronda has the most beautiful smile. And when I started working with her, she didn't have it. It wasn't there. Because, you know, and I know what it's like. I've lived with depression for the better part of 30 years, and it's just sucks. There's no other question, you know, and there's no other way to put it. And it's beautiful when somebody who has such a beautiful smile finds it. And what you're going to do is just light up the world for so many people. And I really honor you for that. And I honor that's, I'm excited for what this is going to do for you. Like, this is by you sharing your story like that. So thank you so much, Jeronda.
Thank you.
Right. All right. So I'll put myself back here. I'm going to move you, Jeronda. Don't worry. You're behind the book. All right. So next in line, I'm going to bring up Dr. Melissa in the house. Here she is. There she is. All right. Let me put myself up behind the book. There we go. All right, Dr. Melissa, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you personally, and then and you know, your journey in education and all, and then we'll talk about your business.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lori, for allowing me to be a part of this book. I am very honored to be included. And a little bit about me. So I am Dr. Melissa Balisan. I have been married for 20 years. So we just celebrated our 20th anniversary this past summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I live in Colorado, beautiful Colorado. I love Colorado. And I have been on a mission to help people and to save lives I think since I was little. I was always helping out, doing different things, going and helping our neighbors and our elderly from church. And I can remember helping them, you know, when they'd gotten home from surgery and things like that. So I decided to go into pharmacy school. I didn't want to go and be a medical doctor. I I thought, I don't want to go with the blood. So I wanted to find a way to help people. And so I went into pharmacy school. And I was on a mission at that time to still save lives, to find a cure for somebody near and dear to me. And throughout my journey, I was able to find a solution for her. And I've been practicing pharmacy for over 20 years, almost 26 years in the field of pharmacy. And that's given me 52,000 clinical hours and counting of experience with what I do, both Eastern and Western medicine. And I love that I'm able to help people each and every day. I got phone calls even earlier today. Somebody was asking questions because they're not feeling well. And so I was fortunate that I was able to walk them through some solutions that they couldn't get elsewhere.
And you got a fan. Julie Jones is in the house saying, "Woo, Dr. Melissa."
Julie.
So yes, I mean, I've known Melissa for a few months now, and Melissa she is a badass. Let me tell you, it is impressive, like crazy to me, the fact that you are a pharmacist, a PhD pharmacist, let alone the fact that you've also had a training in not just Western, but in Eastern. And I tell her this all the time. It's not like she's never heard me say that. It's because that's a big thing. That's really a big thing. A lot of pharmacists around these days don't understand Eastern medicine. And it's really important because so many people utilize complementary and alternative medicine, and which includes, homeopathic, naturopathic, and not to mention all the watch something on the show and then go into the health food store and they buy something. So this is a really big thing. And the fact that you've got a lot going on. Like, so before we get into the why you decided to become a part of this, because you've written before, you've written how many books? Two other books?
Yeah. I have two #1 bestsellers. This is going to be my third #1 bestseller. So
yes, we're going to make this the #1 bestseller. That's right. That's what I like. That's absolutely. But and then you also have a show, right? You have a new show out, right?
I do.
And
I do.
What
yes, I have. Oh goodness, yeah, I have a new TV show that airs every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I should have thrown that link in there. I'll throw that link in the chat too for you, Lori. And that's going to air on Roku. I have another show on Roku that's out there, and then this one's going to go on Roku and Amazon and one other major TV network. So, but yeah, I have that. One of my passions is education. I love to educate, and so the TV show allows me to do that, to educate and to be able to provide value for you and allow you to come and ask questions. And throughout that, my passion is to really help you optimize your medications and your supplements, to get you off of things that you don't need. I'm often called, one of my physicians calls me a deprescriber, because I like to get rid of things that are not necessary. So many times you get a medication and you get another medication and another medication, and sometimes you're just getting a medication to combat a side effect of another medication. And let me throw out a staggering statistic. 2.1 million adverse drug events happen every year. And that is huge. Now you think that's huge. Well, there's 4.5 billion prescriptions filled every year. So a good chunk of those, somebody's having a reaction to. They may not need it. And so what I do is really help you optimize your level of medications, your supplements, get you to the point so that you can understand what lifestyle medicine is. Because 95% of chronic conditions are preventable or reversible with lifestyle. And so that is really one of my true passions, is to help you live your best life now, which Julie Jones says that as well. So that's one thing, because you're only given one life, one body. And so I really want to make sure that you can do the best with it, and allow me to walk alongside your journey with you and help you optimize what you're doing.
And I think, and let me tell you, she is the statistic queen. She throws out these statistics. I've always wanted to be that person. Like, I always want to be able to roll off stuff off the top. I've never been able to memorize numbers like that. And those are really, really important, because we always talk about people dying or becoming ill from illnesses, but to the idea or the thought of us becoming ill from the actual drugs that are being prescribed for other illnesses. And yeah, so I love what Dr. Melissa does, because she really opens you up to understanding, what the medications that you're taking, why you're taking them. And she also opens your eyes up to the fact that doctors don't often communicate with each other. Well, I say often, I'm being courteous. They really don't communicate with each other, and they often prescribe without realizing that there's something else that was prescribed. And it's the pharmacist that catches these things. So yes, it's phenomenal. And again, aside from the fact that you are that Eastern, you're trained in Eastern, and so you really can put people on the right path. So you've done 2 books, but why tell your story? Why was this important for you?
So I have had a lot, like a lot of us, telling my story made me really vulnerable. And it's been something I've had to overcome. And I put myself in this place where, what are others going to think of me because of what I went through, which is my story. So you'll just have to read it, of the trauma that it really, it shut me down. It locked me in a hole for almost a year, and that wasn't healthy for me. The environment that I was in wasn't healthy, but being through that and really writing down my story and really being able to tell it, I think has helped me open up a little bit more, and being able to know that I'm not alone in this. I wanted to share because I'm sure that there's other people who have gone through similar situations. And I think that was one of the hardest things, is I thought I was alone. And as I started, my coach, she was very gentle with me, and she's like, you need to just tell me a little bit. And so each time I told a little bit more to her, I became braver. And so by me putting this, putting this down and letting the world see it, I think that it's helped me come out of the trauma, and I am on that triumphant roller coaster now. And just knowing that there's others that could be going through this is really why I decided to go ahead and write it down, and hopefully it will inspire them to know that they don't have to put up with the crap that they're putting up with, and that there is another road. There's other successes. And then like for me, in the world of pharmacy, there's multiple opportunities. And so for me to transition out of, I didn't change careers. I just pivoted in my career. When I went to pharmacy school, that was one thing I loved, is that I wouldn't just be your behind the counter pharmacist. That was never in my path. I've done that a little tiny bit early on in my career, but that wasn't in my path. That wasn't in my passion. And so my passion has really been more consultation and concierge service, really helping people understand what they're taking and optimizing it. And so I'm fortunate that I was able to transition to do that and allow people to really get to know why they're on something, and allow them to understand that they do have a voice in the matter of their health. I think that's one of the biggest pieces. And that was one thing that even in the healthcare field that I was in or am in, I've had blinders on, and I didn't realize that I let my own health suffer. And I hope that nobody else does that, so that they can overcome their challenge and not let their health suffer to the point where almost dying. And because that's definitely scary to be to that point.
And that, I think that's the irony of it too, is that how many people that are actually in healthcare are not well because they're stressed, they're overworked, they're not practicing self-care. And it's almost like a badge of honor that they wear, that, oh, you know, I'm working all these hours, I'm working blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but you're supposed to be, you know, sort of, you're in this field, like you're supposed to be sort of setting an example. And yeah, to be able to recognize that, I mean, it's amazing how a person's story or the things that are happening in their lives can affect them, even physically and physiologically. And so, yeah, we have to be aware of that. And that's perfect. Yes, I think your story will definitely help individuals realize that, you know, you have a choice. You know, all the stories will. We all have a choice. We all can decide if, you know, are we going to keep going this path, or are we going to end this path? And then when you end the path, what are you going to do now with the information that you received from what you went through? So, so yes, I'm putting all your, let me see, you posted something else here. Okay. We've got all kinds of juicy stuff for Dr. Melissa. And what's the name? I love the name of your new show. What's the name of your new show?
My new TV show is Dr. Melissa, Medicine Woman.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. How is your husband excited about the book coming out?
You know, I don't know. I hope so. We really haven't talked much about it. He's excited for things to move along. So I think that a milestone of getting my story out there. So yes.
Good. That's fantastic. All right. So thank you, Dr. Melissa, for coming on, and thank you for being a part of this project. It's, again, your story is very inspirational and very needed. We need to hear it because it's very applicable to so many people out there. And there's going to be a lot of people that will definitely resonate with that, and that they will be inspired by this book. And remember, you know, that's the other piece here, everyone, that all these authors, you can reach out to them. There will be links in the book for you to be able to reach out. There's free things that they're offering, that we're all offering. And right now we're putting links up for you to connect with people, and for you to friend people and follow people and subscribe to them, so that you can be a part of this inner circle, so that you can also step up and be the badass in your life. So thank you, Dr. Melissa, for coming on. I will put myself in the front for a moment. And don't worry, Dr. Melissa, I'm going to move you from the book. All right. So our next person up, which will actually be our final person, because Margarita de Margarita, it was ill tonight, so she wasn't able to make it. She called me right before and she's like, I can't make it. So she didn't come on. So we're sad about that. But we're going to, so we'll end a little bit early tonight, but after our next author, I'm going to do a little bit of, have a little conversation with everyone, and then we will move on. So let me bring Noël into the house. Let's see. There she is. And I'm going to. All right, Noël. So Noël, go ahead and introduce everyone to you. Tell a little bit about your personal background, and then we'll go into your professional background.
So hi everyone, I'm Noël. Can you hear me okay? Do I sound normal? Okay, good. My personal background, I have been, I would say I'm a trauma survivor and hopefully now thriver, working at that, trying to just get my story out there and encourage other people to do, you know, what they need to do to take care of themselves when these sorts of things, when the unthinkable happens. And yeah, is that a good synopsis?
Where are you from, and where did you
like all the info.
You've moved around a lot too, right? So so where are you originally from?
I'm originally from East Hartford, Connecticut. And then I moved out to Mesa, Arizona for 5 years when I was about 6 or 7. And then I lived in Ahwatukee, Arizona for 2 years. And then I moved to Massachusetts for 2 years. And then I moved back to Connecticut, all within my formative years.
And then you came back to Connecticut, and you and what's your profession?
I am currently a front end team lead at a naturopathic and osteopathic physician's office. So I do administrative work there.
And I will tell you from experience, just because I've known Noelle for, we've known each other
for a long time.
A really long time. Oh my gosh. It doesn't seem like we would, but we have. And Noelle is a prolific writer. I mean, she is just a phenomenal writer. And I've said this to her for years, and I actually reached out to her for this, and I said, for God's sakes, you have got to just be in the freaking book, because I've been asking her to write for a really long time. And she's so wonderful at it. And again, this is really great for a lot of people to jump start, because one chapter it seems like it would be easy, but it's not always that easy. And then, but it just gets you going. It catches the bug, And was it hard for you to write your chapter?
It was actually, one of those things. I think when you're someone who's always wanted to write, like you have those excuses in your mind, like, oh, I just don't have the time. And then, the pandemic proved otherwise. And I'm like, well, I'm still not writing. And then this opportunity presented itself, and I was like, all right, here we go. Like, I'm going to jump in. And then I had a little bit of challenges with writing it. I was very apprehensive. Like, once I sat down to do it, it was like, wow, this is putting yourself in a pretty vulnerable state. And you think of all the different, at least I think of all the different ways, like certain things may be perceived. And I'm like, does this sound stupid? Like, I know what I'm trying to say, but to get it out on words, in words rather, on words. I'm a great writer.
She's a great writer.
It's a totally different experience.
She's a great writer. Okay.
Terrible public speaker.
It is, I'm glad you said that, because there's so many elements to it. And again, in your head, we play these stories over and over again for years, like especially our story. And if we regurgitate it to somebody else, but then when you actually go to pen it, and sometimes it's just hard to bring the words out to the pen, but the other part, or to the paper, but the other part is that there's a difference between what's in your head and what's on paper. That's why, even like with goal setting, like, or that when you say you want to do something, they always say, don't just think about it, like write it down, because it's different, because you see it in front of you. And then when you start actually seeing these things in front of you as they're coming, into the into the wide open space here, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And sometimes, and I said this earlier, that, brings up stuff for people. A lot of people sort of got really nervous towards the end, because they were, myself included, like, oh my God, do I really want to put that out? Like, do I really want to say it that way?
Right.
Did you find that you were a little nervous about putting out your story because of it would bother other people that maybe knew you, or I know you said about the perception thing, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what happened to me with my story, it's a perspective that I don't think people really touch on a lot. And I know I personally never gave it much thought at all. Even when I heard about that specific like trauma happening to people, there's a side that I think everyone thinks about. And then there's like this whole other reality that, I don't know, I'm trying not to give anything away, but I was very cautious, and I tried to just kind of like touch on things and move through it in a way that like honored the other person who experienced the other side of this story, without delving too much into it, because, I feel as though I want to be respectful of where they were at and when that happened, and then, where they are now, and the people that love them. it's very easy to make up stories in your head or have preconceived notions or thoughts about how other people are handling things, especially when trauma is involved and there's a lot of pain and life-altering circumstances. Like, you know, it was one of those things that made me, like, I remember driving home, I'm like, I can't write this story. Like, I can't do this. But like, also, you know, I think it's important to just get the story out there and have people who maybe can relate to it. And I don't know how it'll affect, you know, people who are related to this story in particular. I hope that it's not perceived as like, you know, I hope it's perceived the way that I'm just telling my side of it. And it was a lot for me too. So to survive. So.
No, yours was. And, you know, and all of every single story that's there, you know, we can never control how people perceive anything. We can never control how somebody's opinion is, how they understand things. And the goal is that we're looking for those that are listening to this broadcast, that when you read the book, that you come from a place of passion, not authors, but also yourself, because if something you within one of those chapters that, wow, I know somebody that went through this, or I've gone through this, or
Right.
I've gone through this and this, like it could be multiple. It's why we wouldn't want the reason it's so hard to get past these traumas a lot of times, because of the judgment that often comes into play with your society or your family or friends, or, you know, and I mean, we all shared, you know, there's so many variations to these stories. There's so many different types of stories, you know, and there's certain emotional pieces of these stories where I know I could speak for myself, is that people would think, you know, might say, oh, just snap out of it, or, you know, oh, you can get back. I don't know what the problem is. Like, why are you making such a big deal of this? And it is a big deal. You know, it is what everybody was going through and what they've shared. It is a big deal. And to be stuck with something like this and something, or whatever everybody was going through for years at a time, and you lose those years, like, because you're not living your best life. You're not living your healthiest life. You're not living a happy life. You're controlled by the trauma.
Yeah.
And then even though you triumph over the trauma, it's still holding you back. And so, yours is a very, very deep story. And the beautiful thing about Noël with her writing is that she's very comical. That's the irony behind it, right? So you're, she's very, like, I've even submitted her stuff without her knowing to, like, the Huffington Post, because she's like that kind of writer. She's very witty. So, and you still manage to be, even as traumatic as your story is, you're throwing that wit in there, like, periodically, you know, and but that just shows the authenticity, and then also shows the personality of you as the author, but all of the authors. You know, it's we are the story, but we also are not defined by the story. And it's one chapter in the book of life. And so what do you hope that, like, what do you hope for yourself by releasing this book? Because you shared what you hope for other people. What do you hope for yourself?
Well, this was a really enlightening experience, because it really put a dream that I've had for a long time, and that people, particularly on this call, have tenaciously encouraged me to do. Like, just kind of made it a reality, like, to get something published and to have a broader audience than, like, you know, my sister or something, but, like, you know, my Facebook friends. But I want to keep writing. I really enjoyed it. I think it's so interesting, all the layers that come with it. You know, I think I started to question why I really wasn't writing, and, like, vulnerability is a big piece. No one, you know, feels great about ripping off that Band-Aid or scab or whatever's going on. But also, like, how many other factors and other people I kind of let keep me quiet in my story. And now I'm kind of, like, over that. Like, there's things that I want to write about because, you know, they happen to me, and everyone has their story and everyone has, like you said, their perception of things. But what I want is to keep sharing, because like I love infusing, that sounds so weird, infusing trauma with humor, but like really in your deepest, darkest moments, like you're not even sure if you're ever going to laugh again. And so I think it's a tremendous privilege to look back on those hardships and just be like, all right, well, this was kind of funny, like, and at least make it a little lighter so that other people who are struggling can relate and be like, oh, okay, you know, maybe one day I'll look back on this terrible time and I'll be able to laugh about it a little bit. So I think I just want to keep writing. And I've looked into other avenues. I'm not going to write a novel. I think I'll probably just do like short stories and make them a collection of short stories. Cause I also learned that I don't like to write unless I want to write. Like, I don't enjoy writing. I'll be like, it's not going to happen unless I feel like it. So that was a good lesson. But yeah, I want to keep going because it is really fun. And I think it's very therapeutic too. I think it's really important that, you know, I can't tell you just, I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but
No, you're
but
fine.
I'm going to keep going.
We got you started too. We started. Okay.
Yeah. So I ended up, when the pandemic like first hit, and I was just like, you know, this is my nightmare. I've always been more of an anxious person, and all these things were hitting the fan. And I just found myself really clinging to like the Moth radio hour on NPR and listening to stories of things that people were going through. And like those moments when I was like, I don't know what's going to happen next, like hearing what people had experienced and made it through, and just hearing like collective human stories of experiences, it just really gave me so much comfort. And like, that's, you know, what we've been doing since the beginning of time is storytelling. So like, it's not like it's, you know, a saturated market and nobody is going to be able to, you know, everyone has something to contribute. And I think I want to keep contributing because I love when other people do. It gives me that little ray of hope or little snort of laughter. And it's just awesome. It reminds you of the human experience and it helps you move through yours.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, and there's nothing wrong with connecting humor with trauma. In fact, I think that a lot of comedy is based on that. In fact, most comedy is based on some sort of mild to moderate trauma, and they create that. But that's what it is, you know. Like they'll talk about the bad things that happened to them when they were younger, and it's funny now. And so yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm the same way. It's not everybody's cup of tea sometimes, but I think for a vast majority of people, once they understand the reasoning behind it, and sometimes you have to be like, wow, this was just like really like all of this crap happened to me. And like, there's gotta be some sort of humor behind it because it's just, it can't possibly be, you know, but
if not, I'm going to start crying.
Right. Exactly. And honoring people because, you know, sometimes some of the stuff is so traumatic that we can't find, like, it's just, you can't even laugh about it. You can't find anything. You just have to let it go. You just have to be like, that's just disgusting and awful. And but I'm glad that you found your humor because it's, you know, if that's what represents you. And that's the other thing. And I'm actually going to bring everybody on now.
Yay.
Let me see how I do this. Let's see. There's a way to do this. Can we bring everybody on? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that's, I got in the middle now. And we're all here, right? We're all present. Everybody's on. Okay, that's good. So yeah, we did miss, somebody had, like, Kelly had to get off, and looks like Jeronda got off, and that's fine. I know a few people couldn't stay on, and I'm actually thrilled that all of you stayed on for as long as you did. So I'm really honored for that. But this is a very important book because we become vulnerable in this, but vulnerability is not a weakness. I think Brene Brown has really nailed that into our heads by now, that it isn't. Vulnerability is a strength. And anybody that turns around and tries to make your vulnerability a weakness by coming at you, the way that you fuel their fire is by allowing them to do that. I remember when I hit my rock bottom place and I transformed my life, I finally owned my vulnerabilities and I admitted it, and I would speak of them openly. And those individuals who came around and would say, oh, well, you're this, this, and this. And when I turned around and said, yeah, I know. And they didn't know what to do with that because they saw that it didn't hurt me any longer. And are we, do we have a suit of armor now where we don't have these things that trigger us? No, again, we said it earlier, it's a transformation is a lifelong process. And so we're always hit with something. Something that we might've forgotten about. And then all of a sudden it comes in and rears its, and then we meet a family member, or we run into somebody, and all of a sudden there's it's brought up again, but it comes less often and with less severity. And that is because when you honor yourself by telling your story to the right people and letting it go and letting it out, you'll be able to move on, and you'll rise up like the phoenix, and you will be a different version of yourself and be the most amazing version of yourself. And you'll have much more clarity, and you'll have much more drive to be the phenomenal person that you are. So I want to thank everybody for being all you authors, you badass authors, for being a part of this. It's been a journey, and I'm honored. I don't want to get emotional. I'm honored that, you shared the way you did. That was my vision. I really was hoping that people didn't hold back because, but I understood if they did. And when I read each story, I was just like, this is exactly what I was thinking. This is exactly what I'd hoped for. So the only one that was missing tonight was Margarita because she's ill, and we're missing you, Margarita, if you're watching this, and we hope you feel better. And she has a very empowering story as well. So the release date is November 23rd, Tuesday, November 23rd. We will be posting, all of us will be posting in our social media, the links to be able to buy the ebook. The ebook is 99 cents. Okay. It's a very easy purchase. It's not expensive. We're going to be sending links out to people abroad, anybody. So we're going to also ask those of you that are listening that if you know somebody in another country, send them the link for their country. We can post all of them, but we'll let you know which one you have to click on for purchase here in the United States. But send them out because we would love to hit that international best-selling author, and we would like to hit multiple categories. And then the actual book itself will be out, hopefully, fingers crossed, that it will be out before the end of the year, and even better if it was before Christmas. But if not, it'll be worth the wait, and to have it in your hand. So any last bits of wisdom, my beautiful, look at Charisse is falling asleep. So we got to get, she's like, I'm done. I got to go. This is too long. So any bits of wisdom anyone wants to share before we say goodbye? Anybody want to jump in? You can everybody unmute yourself. Anybody want to jump in?
I just want to encourage everybody to buy our book.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you all for coming on this journey together. We got a new tribe together.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Absolutely. A lot of good coming out of this for all of us. So be blessed today and always.
I'm trying to give shout outs to the people last minute, but I don't type that fast. So just talk a little bit longer. Let me get these shout outs out first.
Thank you again, Lori.
What else do you want to say?
I'm proud to be part of this group.
I am too.
I think that this was a great group of powerful women that you brought together, badasses. Lori,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for picking the right people to be part of this project.
Right.
I think you did a great job doing that.
You are welcome. I'm almost there.
I think there's no stopping us, so this is good.
We're gonna kill it.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're starting to get our ideas for volume 2.
That's right.
There you go.
Yes. Actually, thank you, Real Deal Chenille, for saying that, because I've actually had people reach out to me once I started posting this. They're like, you know what? I didn't think I was ready to get on for this one, but if you do another one, and I'm thinking about doing another one, because I think that's what this does. This encourages people and empowers people to share their story. And like I said, if I could make this a TV show, then I'm shooting for the Gaia network. That's what I want Gaia to pick this up. But if this is a big thing, because you know, when you shine your light of what you've been through and what you've overcame and what you've learned, all you're doing is paving another path for somebody else. And
Absolutely.
And for that, the goal is that once you read this book, that you will share your story and tell other people, so they can move on and move and live a life that they were meant to live. So thank you, all of you, for being on tonight. And thank you, everyone, for coming on. So honored and blessed to have all of you. And November 23rd. So we're going to start sending out stuff before that.
Yep.
Get me all ready.
Yes.
Don't get annoyed, fans.
Share. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming on. And
Have a great night. Be
from the
blessed. everyone.
Badass Buddha, be you, be real, and be extraordinary. I can't leave without saying that. So good night, everybody.
I know.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Be blessed. Have a